Chapter 19. Thorolf Retaliates. When spring came, and the snow and the ice were loosed, then Thorolf launched a large warship of his own, and he had it made ready and equipped with his housecarls, taking with him more than 100 men. And a goodly company they were, and well weaponed. And when a fair wind blew, Thorolf steered southwards along the coast, till he came to Birda. Then they held an outer course outside the islands, but at times through the channels between hill slopes. Thus they coasted on southwards, and had no tidings of men, till they came eastwards to Vik. There they heard that King Harald was in Vik, meaning in the summer to go into Uppland. The people of the country knew nothing of Thorolf's voyage. With a fair wind he held on south to Denmark, and thence into the Baltic, where he harried through that summer, but got no good booty. In the autumn he steered back from the east to Denmark, at the time when the fleet at Arar was breaking up. In the summer there had been, as was usual, many ships from Norway. Thorolf let all these vessels sail past, and did not show himself. One day at eventide he sailed into Mostrar Sound, where in the haven was a large ship of burden that had come from Arar. The steersman was named Thorir Thruma. He was a steward of King Harald's, manager of his farm at Thruma, a large farm in which the king used to make a long stay when he was in Vik. Much provision was needed for this farm, and Thorir had gone to Arar for this, to buy a cargo, malt, wheat, and honey, and much wealth of the king's had he for that end. Thorolf made for this ship, and offered Thorir and his crew the choice to defend themselves. But as they had no force to make a defense against such numbers, they yielded. The ship, with all its freight, Thorolf took, but Thorir he put out on an island. Then he sailed northwards along the coast with both ships. But when they came to the mouth of the Elbe, they lay there and waited for night. And when it was dark, they rowed their longship up the river and stood in for the farm buildings belonging to Halvard and Sigtryg. They came there before daybreak and formed a ring of men round the place, then raised a war whoop and wakened those within, who quickly leapt up to their weapons. Thorgir at once fled from his bedchamber. Round the farmhouse were high wooden palings. At these, Thorgir leapt, grasping with his hand the stakes, and so swung himself out of the yard. Thorgil's yeller was standing near. He made a sweep with his sword at Thorgir, and cut off his hand along with the fence stake. Then Thorgir escaped to the wood, but Thord, his brother, fell slain there, and more than 20 men. Thorolf's band plundered and burnt the house, then went back down the river to the sea. With a fair wind, they sailed north to Vik. There again, they fell in with a large merchant ship belonging to men of Vik, laden with malt and meal. For this ship they made, but those on board, deeming they had no means of defense, yielded, and were disarmed and put on shore. And Thorolf's men, taking the ship and its cargo, went on their way. Thorolf had now 3 ships, with which he sailed westward by fold. Then they took the high road of the sea to Lydandisness, going with all dispatch, but making raid and lifting cattle on ness and shore. Northwards from Lydandisness they held a course further out, but pillaged wherever they touched land. And when Thorolf came over against the firths, then he turned his course inward, and went to see his father Kveldulf, and there they were made welcome. Thorolf told his father what had happened in his summer voyage. He stayed there but a short time, and Kveldulf and his son Grim accompanied him to the ship. But before they parted, Thorolf and his father talked together, and Kveldulf said, "I was not far wrong, Thorolf, in telling thee, when thou wentest to join King Harald's guard, that neither you nor we thy kindred would in the long run get good fortune therefrom. Now, thou hast taken up the very counsel against which I warned thee. Thou matchest thy force against King Harald's, but thou art well endowed with valor and all prowess. Thou hast not luck enough for this, to play on even terms with the king, a thing wherein no one here in the land has succeeded, though others have had great power and large force of men. And my foreboding is that this is our last meeting. It were in the course of nature from our ages that thou shouldest overlive me, but I think it will be otherwise." After this, Thorolf embarked and went his way, and no tidings are told of his voyage till he arrived home at Santinus, and caused to be conveyed to his farm all the booty he had taken, and had his ship set upon the land. There was now no lack of provision to keep his people through the winter. Thorolf stayed on at home with no fewer men than in the winter before.